Now, 25-year-old Robert Van Tuinen was at Modesto Junior College, and he was passing out copies of the U.S. Constitution. But then school police showed up, and they told him that he couldn't do that. In fact, they specified that there's a very particular area on campus where he is allowed to do that, and it's a very, very small area. The campus is pretty large, and he has to be in that designated area. And before he passes anything out, he actually has to talk to school administrators or university administrators to have a specified day where he can pass out copies of the U.S. Constitution. Now, this happened on September 17th, and when he did go talk to officials at the university, they told him, you can do this at the designated area on September 20th. So understandably, and we're going to have a discussion about all of this in just a second, but understandably, he got a little upset about that, right? And then he took the fight to the administrators, and watch what happened.
And I'm trying to start a student organization called Young Americans for Liberty.
That's fine, but if you're going to start an organization like that, you have to go through the rigmarole, the rules and regulations that have already been set.
But why are there rules and regulations placed on free speech? Why do I as a student have to get permission to have a free speech?
It's a time, place, and manner. That's what it's called. And that's
Okay.
the free speech area. And the free speech area is over there in front of the student center in that little cement.
So that little yellow circle that you guys saw on the school map is where the designated free speech area is. And it's comically small. And I feel like when you are on a college campus, you should have the ability to use that entire campus for free speech. I mean, if you want a free marketplace of ideas, a university is the first place where that should exist, and having designated free speech areas is kind of questionable, especially when you're doing something as harmless as passing out the U.S. Constitution. Hell, I feel like we should have numerous people passing out the U.S. Constitution on a regular basis.
Let me tell you a little something about Robert Van Tuinen, who I don't know anything about, right?
Let me tell you something about him, even though I know nothing about him.
Please. Why do I, as a student, have to have a regulation for free speech? You want to pass out the Constitution, Robert Van Tuinen wants to pass out the Constitution. Robert Van Tuinen agrees with you about nothing.
I know,
right?
I know. He wants to start YAL, which is Young Americans for Liberty.
Yeah.
It's a libertarian organization. I did a debate for them at ASU, so I'm familiar with them. And yeah, we disagree on a lot of issues. On this particular issue, I agree with him. I think that he should be able to pass out the U.S. Constitution anywhere on campus.
Of course he shouldn't. They're running a fucking college, man, and maybe it shouldn't be
and
the
students
size
should
of a.
know about the Constitution.
Yeah, but they do know about the Constitution.
No, they don't. Most Americans have no idea about the U.S. Constitution.
We're talking about two separate things. Whether they should be allowed to do it, and whether the space is big enough. Those are two separate things. I think we all agree we should be allowed to do it, right? They should be allowed to do it on campus. Whether the space is comically small, as you said, it's absurd. But what I was thinking when I read this was, how refreshing. If I was walking down the street and someone tried to hand me a copy of the Constitution and there was nothing else in it, no brought to you by Jesus or anything else, and I would be like, wow, that is the greatest interaction.
You're a sucker. You're a sucker.
Really?
All these people. Today,
Tell me why. I love the Constitution.
Me and my girlfriend and my baby are moving. We bought a house, right? It's a nice time.
I know. Can you explain why you hate the Constitution?
Yeah. This is it. So we are.
Congratulations on the baby.
Isn't that grand?
Yeah. By the rights of the Constitution.
And we're giving. So you got to go. We're moving into a house that's like the size of a closet, right? It's only like $2 million. But we're it's Southern California. Uh-huh. So we're getting rid of a bunch of stuff, and I found two old mugs that I have that are the Bill of Rights mugs. Like, how much of a pain in the ass am I? I got two mugs that have the Bill of Rights on them. And I looked at them, I'm like, I forgot about these Bill of Rights mugs. Give them away. You know why? Because these fuckers have ruined everything. And now, you hear Sarah Palin and this guy, and they all talk about Young Americans for Liberty. They don't know what liberty is. They don't know what this country stands for. They have no concept. They want it to be just for them. They don't want to let anybody fucking in. They don't want to pay $1 of tax so we can pave a road or educate a child or make a sick person healthy again. They don't want to do any of these things. They have no concept what made this country great, why people around the world want to come here. They've ruined my mugs. And they've
How dare
ruined the
they?
Constitution.
How dare they?
So I don't give a shit about Robert Tuinen, and he's a pain in the ass, and he doesn't know how to speak or ask something, and he's 25 and he's at a fucking junior college.
Okay.
That may be the overriding factor here.
It's going to turn out he's like in the military and something.
Yeah,
that's why
you
it's
really-
right, totally. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
I think you make legitimate points about
Really?
libertarian ideology, especially when it comes to their fiscal policy. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you on that, but I'm just talking about his very specific act of passing out the Constitution. I don't want to go off on, what his intentions are, because as long as he's just passing out the Constitution, I don't have a problem with that. And that's how it started. And by the way, I don't agree with him on his hatred of the regulation indicating that you have to check with administrators before you start a student organization on campus. Starting a student organization on campus it needs some sort of permission or whatever from administrators. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But free speech is different.
Is it? Will you consider? Well, okay. So it's the Constitution. It's no different if it's the Constitution than if he's handing out a leaflet about some political act that he believes in. I would say there really isn't a difference. It's a nice act if he's giving out the Constitution. The school should probably give away copies of the Constitution
Right,
for
wouldn't
free.
that be refreshing?
That would be nice.
Okay.
But so the issue for me then is, make it the size of a football field. But other than that, a school has a right to not have people everywhere you are handing stuff out. Like there's academic freedom. You have freedom to walk from one place to another without getting harassed. I get why they would not want this to get out of hand. And the Constitution is just like any other group, any other leaflet, any other nonsense that these kids want to pass out.
Now, the school seems to admit a little bit of wrongdoing, okay? Maybe I'm reading a little too much into the statement, but the communications officer or the public relations officer did release a statement, and she says the following. In the case of the YouTube video, it does not appear that the student was disrupting the orderly operations of the college, and therefore, we are looking into the incident. So basically, she's saying, he was just passing out the Constitution. It didn't seem to be much of an issue. So we're going to look into it and figure out why this happened. And I understand. I definitely don't want to be harassed by people on a campus who are trying to push their political agenda. I understand the need for maybe a designated area, but it can't be comically small. And you can't tell people, hey, you got to check with the administrators to figure out when you can come back to practice your First Amendment rights.
Yeah, we all agree with that.
Yeah.
But here, this dude, Robert Shibley, the senior vice president of FIRE, who's the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. FIRE.
He lives in that very
First
small
of all,
box, by the way.
In an official statement, Shibley wrote the incident and the YouTube video that we just saw should send a chill down the spine of every American. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, that's not the reaction anybody's going to have to the video. Yeah, he should be able to hand out his Constitution in a bigger area, and if he's not disrupting things, but that guy was going to disrupt things if given a chance.
Listen, I like the idea that the Constitution was being handed out. However, I will grant you this concept that if it was just any other idiotic thing, we wouldn't be talking about this because we all agree with the basic idea that it's okay if it's in one little spot. Mm-hmm. So ultimately,
I just wish he had.
Maybe these places could be a little more tolerant, I guess. Universities are supposed to be the bastions of tolerance, and they're becoming quite intolerant, actually.
I really went through that with the mug today. I was like, come on, man, these people, it was cool 10 years ago that I had these Bill of Rights mugs, and now I'm like, ugh.
Why do you immediately think about people that try to exploit the Constitution for their own purposes? Like, the Bill of Rights is the Bill of Rights. I mean, you should love it because that's something that America's known for. I do love the Bill of Rights,
and these jackals
are
ruining it with their endless talk about liberty. There, take that clip.